Finally, after 10 years of owning this thing, I'm finally gonna use it. Welcome back to the Scaled Builders Guild. Thanks again for watching. Today we're taking a quick look at some gearing and performance changes on the Axial SCX10III. There are a lot of videos out there reviewing this truck, mine included, and you should definitely go check it out right up here if you haven't already. I go over in pretty fine detail a lot of the features of this truck, so definitely worth a view, and definitely worth the second view if you're on the fence about whether or not you like that truck. But today we're going to look at some upgrades and hop-ups from Axial that can help change the gearing of the SCX10III dramatically. I will caveat right away that the 2-speed isn't something that I'm really concerned about today, nor is making that any better or any worse really the goal of this video. This video is really about getting as much low-end performance out of the truck as possible while also keeping some wheel speed. There's been a lot of chatter about where the final drive ratio sits on the SCX10III and if it's as usable as it could be. From the factory, with the stock kit components, you're getting about 45:1 on the final drive ratio, and that's a pretty decent setup for a crawler with a little bit of speed mixed in there on the second gear. And I wanted to show what can be done if you go to the absolute extreme levels of changing things. Thanks to a very helpful post by Suicide Shift on RC Crawler, an excellent forum as well in its own right. Obviously, it's a much more technically minded site than the Scaled Builders Guild. There are some fantastic members there, Suicide Shift being one of them. He created this really excellent spreadsheet that lets you take all of your gearing inputs and outputs and all the different values and give you some final numbers, and it calculates all of these for you in real time. I'm not much of a spreadsheet guy, but this one is really super helpful. I'll put a link to his Google Drive down below so you can download this and experiment like I did with gearing in different ratios. Since my math is epically bad, a spreadsheet like this will come in handy more than once. I guarantee you that. One thing I will mention that in order to make a lot of these gearing changes possible, not only are you going to be changing the pinion, you're also going to be changing the input gears in the transmission itself. And the best way to do that currently is with Axial's upgrade kit AXI232033. This includes the stock 27-tooth gears and the upgrade 20 and 34-tooth gears that you will need to get a lot of the low-end gearing taken care of. We knew that this was a possibility because in the manual, which I've got right in the manual on page 15, they already lay out some options for you right there. The 27-27, that's the 1:1 gearing ratio if you're using portal axles, because there is reduction at the portal. So you don't need that much reduction in the transfer case or transmission. So that's why they offer it as a 1:1 setup stock with the portal axles. If you were to go to a straight axle though, they do want you to go to the 20/34 tooth gearing setup to give you 1.7:1 in the transmission. That's the key change we're going to be making today, and it's a really easy change to make. You'll have to go backwards a few steps on the assembly of your transmission in order to do this, namely removing these motor plate, spur gear, and the spur gear kind of cover, and then you can get at the actual gears inside the transmission and part of the transfer case. You're going to be removing the two 27-tooth gears and replacing them with the 20 and 34-tooth gear. Once you've done that, you've re-greased everything, and I didn't show that in the reassembly, but it is something that you should be doing, of course. I'm just using regular lithium white grease. You can use marine grease, you can use whatever grease you've got on hand. You can even use the kit grease that was included. Once you've got that all assembled and back into the truck, now we can start having some fun with the pinion. Because we're already adding so much more reduction without changing the pinion gear, and keep in mind I went from the stock 14-tooth to a 13-tooth on the last setup, giving me around a 49.15:1 final drive ratio in first gear and a 33.65:1 on the second gear. And one other handy thing about this chart from Suicide Shift is that it actually allows you to input your motor kV and your battery voltage to help determine your final actual speed. So you don't need to get you don't need to have one of these to find out your final speed calculations. you can just kind of theoretically do it on this spreadsheet, which is really handy. So now that I've replaced the internal gears in the transfer case, input and output from the 27 tooth to the 34-20 combo, my first gear final drive ratio is 83.55 to 1. My speed has definitely taken a hit, about 4 miles per hour less than what I was at already, giving me a total top speed in first gear of 5 1/3 miles per hour. Second gear is only going to get me close to 8 miles an hour, but that's as fast as a stock SCX10 without any 2-speed in it. So I don't really need to go much faster than that, in my opinion. And here's the first question for today based on that data. Do you really enjoy having 2 speeds in what is essentially a trail truck or a crawler? Do you need to go fast? Most people's argument is that they really like to, walk at a faster pace to get to the trail. Well, I usually just carry my truck, so that way I don't need the second gear. And with a good brushless system, you're getting plenty of torque and wheel speed anyway. Even with these lowered ratios, you'll still get enough, in my opinion, to get you over any obstacle. I think the big difference that people need to remember is that when you're comparing it to the TRX4, the TRX4 has, in most cases where that 2-speed exists, I think in all cases where that 2-speed exists, those diffs are actually unlockable. So you've got a bit more freedom to actually turn a vehicle that's going this fast. Any faster of a ratio on the SCX10III is just going to cause it to flip over anyway. So I don't really know that this is the appropriate place to even have a 2-speed, if I'm honest. And on the next SCX10III that I build, and I hope to be doing that soon, I'll be getting rid of the 2-speed entirely and focusing all my attention just on dig and the single first gear. So I thought it'd be cool to show you what this final drive ratio actually looks like. So I've set up my RC 4-wheel drive RTI ramp, and you can get a good idea of what's capable. There's certainly a lot of low end there now, and still a little bit of torque and enough wheel speed to get you over an obstacle. I am really looking forward to taking this outside now. If you wanted to go to the highest final drive ratio possible, putting an 11-tooth pinion in the SCX10III will result in about a 98 to 1 gear ratio in first gear, which is a tremendous amount of low end. That thing will crawl for days. What other sort of upgrades would you like to see for the SCX10III? Do you think that this gear ratio calculator is something you'll be using? And do you think that you'll be changing the gear ratio setup as it is stock on the SCX10III when you get yours? Put your comments down below. You know I love reading through your feedback, and I try to answer as many of them as I can. So there you go, a little look at what's possible with the actual gear ratios of the SCX10III. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you get updates anytime there's a new video from the Scale Builders Guild. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again soon.